Good morning. My name is Brian Tucker. I'm speaking on behalf of my five co-authors, and I will tell you about a tsunami evacuation park for Padang, West Sumatra, Indonesia. I'm 67 years old. I've been studying tsunamis and earthquakes for more than 40 years, and I'm happy to be here today to tell you about this project because in my professional experience, I've never come across a project like this one. I've never known of a project where more people are at greater risk and yet have a more affordable solution. And I am passionate about making people aware of this and asking for their help in realizing what we're going to do about it. In order for me to tell you about it, we have to travel to Indonesia, and in particular to the island of Sumatra. Now, for this audience, if we mention Sumatra, mainly what comes to mind is, of course, the great 2004 tsunami, which struck the northern coast of Sumatra and up north, and changed Banda Aceh, which is on the north end of Sumatra, from this Garden of Eden-like setting to this ravaged landscape where more than 100,000 people died, and it left a scar on the surface of the earth, erasing the cities, the economy, and the people. Now, of course, the reason there are tsunamis and earthquakes in Sumatra is because of earthquake faults. There's one running down down the spine of Sumatra, but the one I want to tell you about is offshore. It's called the Sunda Trench, and this is where a plate is plunging under Sumatra. And this plate drags the Eurasian plate down under. It is stuck here, and the Indo-Australian plate drags the Eurasian plate down, and after several hundred years the stress is released and the island pops up, causing an earthquake and a tsunami, sending the tsunami waves to the west towards Africa and, of course, towards the island of Sumatra. Now, the earthquake of 2004 was not unique. This red patch represents the part of the earth that became relieved and was unstuck by the earthquake. Now, this is not unique. This whole plate is moving, and these red patches represent the part of the earth that were released just over the last 200 years. Each of these red patches represents an earthquake and a tsunami, and the size of the red patches represents the area that slipped. Now, this is just over the last 200 years, which is a microsecond in geologic times, and we are concerned about one particular feature of this plot, and that is this gap. Over the last 200 years, there has been no earthquake and tsunami in this gap. And the reason we're interested in that is that nature, of course, doesn't like vacuums and gaps, and they will fill them. And in this particular place, there's been some tremendously innovative work by a man named Kerry C. and his colleagues that on the coral reefs offshore. And they have determined, by looking at these coral reefs, that they have looked back more than about 1,000 years, and they found that every 200 years, approximately, there's been an earthquake and a tsunami in this area. So it's not just over the last 200 years that there's been no earthquake, but we know that approximately every 200 years they occur. And the last one is in 1797. Now, this would be important and interesting just out of academic reasons, but it is particularly interesting because at that red star, there's a city of 900,000 people called Padang. And you can tell from this that most of the city of 900,000 lies close to the sea level, and it is far from the high ground where safety can be found. So we are interested in this gap, and we want to know what will happen when this gap is filled, as it surely will be. And based on the history of it occurring every 200 years, it should occur in the lifetime of the children alive today. We can forecast what that earthquake and tsunami will be by making inundation maps. And several independent studies have determined that up to 400,000 people out of the 900,000 people living in Padang would die if the earthquake and tsunami occurred today. Now, just to put that in perspective, the tsunami and earthquake that we all have heard about most recently, the Japanese earthquake, killed actually less than 20,000 people. And if you look at this in relative terms, the Padang earthquake would kill about 45% of the people that it will be inundated. And yet in Japan, of the percentage of people that were inundated, only 3% were killed. Of course, it is a terrible tragedy, 20,000 people dying, but the preparation and drilling that the Japanese did resulted in this relatively low loss of life. And this is what we want to bring to Padang, is to bring the knowledge that the Japanese and others have and apply this here. So it's not all bad news. In this scene that I showed you, when the earthquake occurs and the ground travels up and causes the earthquake and tsunami, it turns out that there is the tsunami wave is created, but there's also earthquake waves that are created. And the waves in the earth that travel here travel much faster than the water wave. And that means that the people of Sumatra have 25 minutes of warning. And by warning, I mean we don't need a satellite, we don't need buoys, we don't need radios and trained people. The people of Padang know that if they cannot stand up for more than a minute because the ground shaking is so strong, they will know that a tsunami is on its way and will arrive in 25 minutes. So what have they done about this? The logical thing that I think would occur to all of us is that they made evacuation plans. They made maps and posted them around the city, and they even conducted drills. The problem has been that it just doesn't work. It was logical, and it may work when you have more time, but when in 2007 and in 2009, an earthquake occurred, which was sufficiently big to scare the people, and they thought that a tsunami might be coming. It was so big, in fact, that it knocked down buildings. But the result was that the discipline that had been hoped for evaporated, and people crowded into their motorbikes and cars and created a traffic jam. And the result is that if you go and talk to the mayor today of Padang and you ask, if this expected tsunami occurs today, what will happen? He will say 400,000 people of my people will die. This is totally unacceptable when we know how to do something more about it. This is not just intuition of the mayor or of scientists. There have been studies by Manuela Di Mauro studying how people would behave. It's a computer simulation. Here is a part of Padang. The red dots represent concentrations of population. The green dots here represent safe havens. And the computer model asks how long will it take for people to get from the red area to the green area if they travel by car and motorbikes. The simulation starts at time 0 with 120,000 people in this part of Padang needing to escape. 0 are safe at the start. After 20 minutes, about 18,000 have reached the green areas, and after 30 minutes, approximately 24,000 have reached. So that means that 97,000 are unsafe and would die. Now, the beautiful, elegant solution to this is, suppose you put in the midst of where people live high ground. They don't have to walk to the hills. You have made in the middle of their city high ground refuges. This is an artist simulation of one that we are proposing. And if you propose to put 3 of these in that same part of Padang, and you start this time asking people to travel either to the green areas in the high ground or in these artificial parks, the answer is that at time 0, again, 120,000 people are unsafe. After 20 minutes, about 50,000 have reached safe ground, either on the hills or in these parks. And after 30 minutes, 68,000 have reached safety. That's an increase of 40,000 people. Of course, if you built more of these and distributed them in other parts of the city, more would be saved. So based on this, we went to the Air Force of Padang, of Indonesia, which has a base in the middle of this city. We asked them if we could have permission to build some of these parks, and they granted it. So this is what we want to build. It's very important that a soccer field or something like that be on top, because that will mean every day people will have access to it and will know where it is. It also means the city will maintain it. And it also means that that it is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You don't have to get permission to unlock a building. This is another artist's conception of what it would look like. It's supposed to be attractive and open to everyone. So here we are. We've got approval from the Air Force to build it. The mayor says that if we build it, he will maintain it and landscape it. It has a capacity of about 20,000 people. It would cost about $2 million to build the first one and significantly less to replicate it. That works out to be $100 per life saved. And of course, there's the added benefit of giving a park to the community. You may wonder how these parks behaved and survived the tsunami in Japan. And I can report to you that they all do survive. They aren't like sandcastles on the beach. So here is my value proposition to you. And if anyone has a better value proposition, come to me and I will invest in that. I say to you, an investment today of $100 in a tsunami evacuation park in Padang has a high probability, perhaps more than 50%, of saving a life in the next 30 years. That is, to me, in my lifetime of experience, unbeatable. It's applicable, if we develop it there, to elsewhere in Indonesia, of course, to the northern coast of Haiti, the western coast of Central America, and the western coast of South America. This project has been multi-sectorial and international, government, academia, private sector, and NGOs. The work you've seen I've presented has been funded by Swiss Reinsurance, several universities, and our nonprofit organization. Thank you, and if you have questions, contact me. With pleasure, I'll talk to you. Thank you. Oh. I can answer.
How high are these parks?
The parks are based on, the height depends on how close they are on how close they are to the shore, how and what the inundation is. So there are models that predict how high the inundation level is for different parts of the park. The one, different parts of the city. The one that I just showed you, we would build to 7 meters high. We expect that at that part, the inundation would be about 4 meters high.
Thank you.